Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. My name is Andrew Claudio, a.k.a. GMAC. It is time for the first preview of some West Coast games here on the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. We start in Hollywood against the team that Hollywood cares about, the Los Angeles Lakers, on Thursday night. National TV game on TNT. I apologize in advance. The New York Knicks will take on the Los Angeles Lakers for the second time this season. The last time they took on the Los Angeles Lakers and we did a pregame pod, the tone was about how this could potentially be LeBron's last season, what to make of the fact that they were 6-1 without Anthony Davis during that stretch, and what to expect on that Saturday night matchup with this trip to Madison Square Garden and the job that the Lakers had done under head coach JJ Redick in this nice story of a competent Laker team, probably around a 6 or a 5 seed. And then hours after that pod and that game, the whole NBA world was shook up. The Los Angeles Lakers made arguably the biggest trade, or a shocking trade in NBA history in acquiring Luka Doncic. And just to go through what's happened since then, they're 7-2 with Luka. Their stretch of success actually goes back a little further than the Luka Doncic trade. Since January 14th, this team is 19-4. They have climbed to the second best record in the Western Conference. This is a team that is now officially, we can call them title contenders. And since that January 14th date, which does include some pre-Luka games, but also includes very little Anthony Davis, this team is first in defensive rating, first in first in field goal percentage against, first in points allowed, third in 3-point percentage against, and they're not that bad in offense either. 7th in offense, 3rd in net rating. This is a very good basketball team that now comes in, that the Knicks now go visit at what used to be known as Staples Center. I'm not calling it what their new arena is called. We're going to find out what's going on in Lakerland these days, because it's very different than what I thought it was going to be the last time that the Knicks played the Los Angeles Lakers. And joining me to talk all about it from the Lakers Lounge, Mr. Anthony Irwin. Anthony, welcome to Knicks Film School, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. Listening to all of that back, like the season basically as it is played out, it feels like two different seasons.
Yep.
Like, it feels like I've covered 2 seasons this year. My employer's got a 2-for-1 special.
So what's funny is the Knicks went through nowhere near as identical. Let's just put that out there now. What the Knicks went through last season is nowhere near what the Lakers went through this year, or at least have experienced this year with the blockbuster, earth-shattering trade for Luka Doncic. But last year, you have the pre-OG Anunoby trade version of the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have like the pre-OG Anunoby, the post OG Anunoby Julius Randle injury version of the Knicks. So it ends up being like 3 teams in one. And this season it's just been one long, and we'll talk about the Knicks later, but one long, they made 2 big trades during the offseason. Let's see how it works out. And they've barely made any roster changes. So I guess this post Mitchell Robinson return version of the Knicks could be looked at as a change. But man, I've mostly talked about this trade from the Dallas perspective, because I still don't understand it from the Dallas perspective.
Yeah.
But now I get to talk about it from the Lakers perspective. And what's been fun for me, at least, because I'm one of these weird Knicks fans that doesn't have an animosity for the Lakers. The thing I've noticed in doing this over the past few years is there are a lot of older Knicks fans just hate the Lakers and maybe are annoyed with the media attention and the success and the LeBron of it all. And I just I've never had an animosity towards them. You know, I was never I never hated Kobe. I never hated Shaq. I never really hated LeBron because the Knicks were never good when LeBron was good. So I look at this Laker team and they've become my league pass team almost by default, because I want to see what this Luka thing has become. And oh my goodness, how good they are on the West Coast when I'm up late editing and I got like my laptop here and my iPad there. And the Lakers are my late night, my late night snack, it seems. We'll talk about like what they've been since, but to the Knicks fan that wasn't tuned into the Lakers Lounge or hasn't seen your video of your reacting to the trade, I mean, just take us in the moment. What were you doing when you found out that Luka Doncic was traded to your team for Anthony Davis?
Well, it was a big fight night. Like there was
So you're a UFC guy. You're a UFC guy.
No, it was a great boxing match.
Oh, it was a boxing match. You can tell how not a fighting guy I am. So
I mean, it doesn't matter who was fighting or whatever, but I had some people over there for the fight. So we were all just like, and the fight was kind of like wrapping up, and it was a great one too. Like, it was a really fun boxing match, and it was wrapping up, and then like literally either right after the decision or right before the decision, the first Shams tweet hits, and I get on my phone, and I immediately call, some of the Lakers people that I know, and I'm like, yo, really? And they're like, look, so I spoke to 3 people. 2 people were completely in the dark. They were like, we're here with you, man. We don't know. And then the third person kind of sort of knew, but like couldn't say anything and kind of sort of lied. But like, it was like, oh, well, okay. And then the second Shams tweet hits where he's like, I swear it's real. And I'm like, no, that's what somebody would hack Shams would say,
Right.
So I was just like everybody else, just absolutely shocked. And then hit up my buddy Harrison. We've been podcasting for like a decade now. And I hit him up and I was like, hey, man, we got to go live. We have to talk about this. People are going to want to hear our opinions on it. And he was like, I don't know, man. I'm not really in the state of mind to talk about this. We're all just kind of like, my jaw is on the floor. How am I supposed to podcast with my jaw on the floor? And so I eventually like convinced him to do it. And we recorded the show. I don't remember a single second of that show. Like it's just such a blur. None of it made any sense. And like you're talking about, I'm a Lakers fan / content creator. Those lines kind of blur over time. I can only think about it from the Mavericks standpoint. Like I have trouble talking about it from the Lakers standpoint because it feels like a dream. Like, you ever buy a piece of clothing and you're like afraid to wear it because it's like too nice, and you're like afraid to fully enjoy it, like a really nice pair of shoes. You don't want to walk in public on those crazy New York streets because like you don't want somebody to scuff your brand new shoes or something like that. Like that's literally what it feels like talking about Luka, where I'm like, I know this is really cool. I know like I look great I look incredible in this jacket that I just got, but I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'm not going to enjoy it too much because I'm afraid I'm going to ruin this thing.
Yeah. My wife actually for my birthday got me a new pair of Jordan 1s. I've worn them twice. Like I barely, she's like, you never wear those shoes I got you. Yeah, I want to ruin them. They look amazing. I don't know if you feel this. Obviously it's more intimate for you because they're the Lakers, the team you cover that you make content for, but there's almost like it's just the month anniversary, which is crazy. That's only been like a month and a couple days since that happened. But people were going through like the timeline of what's happened since then. Again, from the Dallas perspective, like losing AD, bad news here, bad news there. Obviously, the Kyrie injury, and then the icing on the cake, the raising of season ticket prices. There's almost a hint of like every time I watch the Lakers and I see Luka playing with them, it's not so much that I'm going to wake up and like we're in a simulation. It's more of like, oh, the league is going to reverse this at some point, right? Like they're going to, this trade's going to get
Stern's going to pop up like the
Undertaker. Like something's going to happen and it's going to, oh, we found a clause. Luka, you're a Mav again. This trade never made sense from the beginning. And now we figured out how, one thing I will say to plug the live stream that you did, that night, because the interesting thing from an outsider's perspective was I've said this on the pod before, I couldn't get enough of the reactions. Like if you weren't a Laker guy, even if you weren't a Laker fan or creator, everybody was live because games had just ended. So we were all doing our post games, and I just went and checked out every single live stream I could. Like, oh, you were live. What was your reaction? You were live. What was your reaction? The thing I will say about your reaction that I thought was fascinating, and I think some people had this reaction and some people were even a little more bullish on what the Lakers could be, is you all had the same thought of like, well, this year, it's like, this isn't about this year. They're probably not going to be that good. They don't really have a center. It's Jackson Hayes and that's it. The defensive team that you put out there, that lineup of LeBron and Austin Reeves and Luka just isn't that good. We'll get to that in a second and what they've been since then. but it was largely an acceptance of like, okay, we've punted on this year to an extent. Like they'll still be good, they'll still make the playoffs, but it isn't about this year. And since then, they're now a 2 seed. They're now like in play to host multiple playoff rounds. And I gotta say, like, I just to shout out, I don't know who your gambling sponsor is, but like to shout out to any of the gambling sportsbooks out there. While I was reacting to it, I had the presence of mind to look up what the Lakers odds are.
Oh, great.
Got them to win the West at plus 2,500.
Yeah.
So it looks pretty good right now. This team with Luka and LeBron, that's gangbusters. It's great defensively and offensively. I mean, obviously, I spoke to what your reaction was that night, but I mean, if you could talk through what it's been like to see this team slowly mold, not just into a team with Luka Doncic, but into a fully realized contender over the last month. What has that been like?
Well, I'll also just really quickly go back to like the whole notion of like they're going to punt the season. They need a center, all that stuff. The Lakers felt that way too. They traded for Mark Williams right away, and whether they got cold feet or whether the medicals actually came back the way that they did, that doesn't matter as much. The Lakers felt like they needed a center. And
Anthony, to be clear, I thought the same thing. I thought this was a next year play as well. I think we all did,
Yeah. And so like now one thing that I think I didn't quite come to grips with is, and I've talked about this on the last couple of shows, of all of the players currently in the NBA, there are 3, I think, like tremendous floor raisers, right? Guys who just make the game easy on everybody around them. Jokic is at the very top of that, right? It doesn't matter what's going on with around him. Although now teams have kind of figured out like, all right, that the way to kind of limit his impact is just to make sure he never touches the ball.
Right.
And, teams are fronting him in the post and they have somebody playing behind just in case they try to throw over the top. And they can do that because Denver doesn't have the talent around him to punish teams for doing that. After Jokic, it's Luka, and it's probably LeBron in some order. Maybe a couple, like there are some other guys in that conversation, whatever. But Luka and LeBron are teammates. And I think like when we talk about how the Lakers have so quickly gone from where they were before, where they weren't a play-in team. I don't think they're heading for the play-in again, but they were like a 6 seed, maybe a 5 seed, a 4 if absolutely everything breaks for them. To go from that to being a 2 seed now, what it really is Luka and LeBron not just make life easier on everybody around them, but they're also making life easier on each other, which now compounds their impact on the game. And so it's been pretty incredible to watch these guys just basically figure out basketball, like not figure out this matchup, this kind of set, where you figure out each other. No, they are mastering basketball together. Watching them what they're doing in the half court together is kind of incredible. And then on the other side of it, the side that we were really concerned about, the defensive side, they're gumming up offenses. It's actually crazy. Now, I don't think they're going to wind up being the best defense in the NBA. I think they're probably going to, slip down a little bit and be in that like 5 to 7 range or so, as teams get second looks at them and as teams get a little bit more tape on what they're doing. And then obviously, as we head into the playoffs, we'll see if things hold up over the course of a series, the defense holds up. But even if they slip a little bit defensively, I think they have an insane upside on the offensive side of the ball. I was talking to some people for my last piece for Clutch Points, and they were like, and I was talking to a former coach, and he was like, I don't know, and he's a fairly well-versed defensive coach, coached some good defenses over the course of his career. And he was like, I don't know, man. Like this is uncharted territory.
The LeBron Luka pick and roll is terrifying. And obviously the Knicks are coming into this with 2 very good defensive wings, and I'm assuming that's how they'll match up tonight with Anunoby on LeBron and Bridges on Luka. But like if you blitz and you get the ball out of Luka's hands, it's LeBron James in the short roll.
4 and 3.
Like one of the best passers and visions visions of the court. That's not English, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the fact that you could just surround them with shooting, it's great. If you put Jackson Hayes in the dunker, Jackson Hayes had an insane night against the Pelicans the other night, 20 points at halftime. I don't
Yeah.
believe he missed a field goal as well, which is both a compliment to LeBron and Luka that you're getting these rim running centers, which is why I understood the Mark Williams trade, but I also understood them opting out of it with his injury history. To the Knicks fan that isn't aware, in 421 possessions that they've played together, that they shared the court together, LeBron and Luka, the Lakers have a plus 8.8 point differential. Now, what's interesting about this, and this will lead to my next question, it's a 116 offensive rating, which is only the 68th percentile according to Cleaning the Glass. And I say only, like it's bad, like it's good, like it's above average.
Right. It's not where it will land, I think, but yeah,
right. It's an effective field, to your point where it land. Like Luka has been inefficient so far. So once he starts to, I don't know, play himself back into game shape is the right way to phrase it, or just figure things out better. It's a 83rd percentile effective field goal percentage. So it is like a very good offense. The thing that I'm curious about is the fact that it's a 107.6 defensive rating with both of them on the floor, which is the 93rd percentile. And as I read, like they've just been gangbusters across the board and all of the defensive stats and rankings for a while now, including with Luka. What are they doing defensively? Like, how are they constructing a defense that has been so effective over the last? I mean, we can go back to that January date, but even with LeBron and Luka, like what can Knicks fans expect to see from the defensive end tonight?
So basically, I'll start with Luka because he's kind of the perplexing part of this to anybody who is like at all versed in defenses, right? You would think, okay, that guy can't defend. What he has basically been doing is like he has such a great understanding of offenses and where breaking points of opposing defenses when he's on offense, that he basically just goes stands in places where he knows would gum up offenses. And he's such a big guy that some teams try to do this kind of with Trey, where like they'll, the Hawks will either hope that the guy that Trey is guarding just goes and stands in the corner and they hide him that way, or they'll hope that the guy that he is guarding kind of floats around a little bit and every so often Trey can pop into passing lanes and kind of disrupt the defense that way. What Luka's doing is a lot closer to what Jokic does, where he just kind of like stands there and he has his head on a swivel and he just knows that like, all right, if I put myself here, all offenses and especially the kind of sets that they're running throughout this game, they have to run through this area. And if I don't let that offense run through this area cleanly, it's going to gum up their offense. And then, so what they have surrounding him is guys like Dorian Finney-Smith. They have Jared Vanderbilt. They have Rui, who's been playing a lot better defensively since like right before the trade and especially after the trade. And they have Jordan Goodwin came in. He's on a 2-way contract and Lakers fans love him because of what he's doing on the perimeter. And they just have all of this length and athleticism and versatility on the perimeter, and they're playing super physical. It's actually like, I bet Tibbs would love to coach this team, weirdly, partially because they have like 8 guys who can really play. So he has no excuse than to play everybody 48 and a half minutes a game.
There you go.
They just, what they're basically putting to the test is, I've had a long running theory that I think wings are more valuable. Like if you have several really good wings that you could just kind of rotate through, think of like a good defensive line in football where you just keep those guys running through and they're always fresh. If you can do that, if you can execute your roster that way, it's actually more valuable than having an anchor big for modern offenses. And that's basically what the Lakers are doing is they have this rotation of wings that they're rotating in there. They're swarming teams. They're not letting people cut cleanly. They're gumming up passing lanes. And then really importantly, they're getting out and running whenever they get stops. And my dude Tim, who covers the Lakers also for Lakers Exceptionalism, according to the stats he's looking at, the Lakers scored 1.6 points per possession in transition against New Orleans. That's overwhelming.
Yeah.
That is just and if you turn the ball over, if you don't score, the Lakers are looking to get out and run. LeBron is running that go route, and Luka's playing quarterback there, and he's hitting him on that like 1 or 2 times a game. That's basically what they're doing defensively, and then that's kind of allowing them to supplement their offense while Luka and LeBron figure out the half court stuff.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Crane Just Speaks Basketball, friend of the pod, Mr. Tim NBA from Lakers Exceptionalism. Can always count on him for the important Lakers stat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's what I wanted to ask about JJ and how much of the credit pie slice he gets, like how big of a slice of the pie he gets, because looking at their profile, like obviously you notice who's not playing anymore. No, D'Angelo Russell's just flatly not here anymore.
Yeah.
And then once the Nick always in it, Cam Reddish is no longer in the rotation or part of the picture as well. And not causation or correlation, but LeBron also just being better. Like he's been more activated on the defensive end, it seems like, since again, that January date stands out more. After that pause because of the fires in LA, they come back and play San Antonio and lose. And then from then on, they've just been, again, 19-4. There's over that stretch, there's no other team that has more wins than them. In fact, there's only 3 teams with 19 wins since January 14th, and it's the 250 win teams, and it's the Lakers. And the Lakers are 19-4. The other teams are 19-5. But I did notice in their profile, though, that the Lakers got a bit of a reputation. I mean, you could speak to this better, of being like free throw merchants, but it's like the Knicks had that reputation too when they had Randall and they had Brunson, but a lot of their points were coming off of free throws. And to that point, on the season, this team is still 3rd in points, a percentage of their points that come from free throws, but that's down because they're 10th since that stretch, since that January 14th date. And to your point about them getting out in transition, they're 7th in percentage of their points coming on the fast break since that stretch starts. So that's caught them all the way up to 10th in fast break percentage of their points. I mean, you could speak to this better, the difference in either last year to this year, or even just like 24 to 25 of JJ Redick. Like what have you seen, and how much is his hand over this part of why the Lakers are where they are today?
The absolute biggest difference in coaching this year compared to last year is the level of communication between JJ and every single player on the roster. I did a ton of reporting, and it's funny. You can know you have it right. You can know that you have the details right, but you're always kind of nervous when you report like outlandish things about a team, because you're just waiting for a player to like quote tweet the aggregation with like, oh, anybody can report anything nowadays, or this is cap, this is this and this and that. At no point last year, and I there was some crazy details that were thrown out there over the course of the year, not just by me, but like more traditional outlets too, had a lot of this stuff. At no point last year did a single player stand up for Darvin Ham, as he was getting absolutely reamed in the media for his deficiencies. And that really stood out to me. That was really interesting. I think guys were pretty fed up with the I think Patrick Beverley calls them the inspirational speeches in the huddle. It was like, no, just give us the X's and O's. Give us the, who's playing where. Tell me where my minutes are coming from. All of that stuff. Tell me where my shots are coming from. And this year, that's the big difference, is that JJ is always very upfront. All right, he at one point this year, Max Christie was only playing garbage minutes. He opened up the season. He wasn't playing very well, got benched, was, sent to the Siberia in terms of the rotation. And JJ stayed on him. He was like, no, man, like, yeah, you're here now, but we need you eventually. And he talked to him 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 and said, stay focused, stay ready, stay ready. And then I think the first turning point in the season was when they benched D'Angelo Russell and inserted Max Christie into the starting lineup and started taking defense more seriously. And the only reason they were able to do that, Max kind of spoke to this too, was they really stayed on top of Max while he was not in the rotation. They were like, get ready, get ready, get ready. And then, with D'Lo, when they benched him, it was like, well, we really need you to run the second unit. And to D'Lo's credit, like the second unit was running really well while he was coming off of the bench. Then eventually they traded him for Dorian Finney-Smith. But like the message here, or the key kind of through line here, is JJ Redick is a great communicator, as you would expect a podcaster to be. Great communicator, and he's kind of learning the game along with everybody, and he now gets to learn it all over again. Now, he's always wanted to coach a certain type of team. He's always wanted to switch 1 through 5. He's always wanted to shoot 53s a game. He's always wanted to, get out and run and press up on defense using your wings and stuff like that. And eventually the Lakers finally gave him that roster. So that's kind of helped. But the key difference here is that the level of communication and absolute buy-in from LeBron and now Luka.
Yeah. You could look, the podcasting element isn't lost on me that mind the game, the pot he did with LeBron. You could just see that there was a clear. The jokes was made the entire offseason. I'm sure you heard it, that wasn't a pod, it was a job interview. But the way he prepared for that, and the way that he had the attention to detail, and these clips that have been going around of him in his meeting room post Luka trade, and these coaches meetings, which I'm skeptical how much oversight he had or didn't have over what is allowed to get sent out to. Shout out to the executive producer credit.
Team partnerships and stuff like that. Yeah.
Listen, I don't put anything out there that isn't going to benefit us as well. I completely get it from an editor's perspective, but I recently, for shout out to the fine folks at the Game Theory podcast, Sam Vecini and Bryce Simon. They recently just did like their 3/4 of the season awards, and when I was told to submit my ballot, like I had JJ's third for coach of the year, and I'm just like, I understand what Daigneault is, but that was already a 1 seed that got Hartenstein and Caruso. Like I expected them to be great. The Lakers, understanding they got Luka, is probably why they're now a 2 seed, but they were already flirting with a 4 or a 5 seed because of just seeing what JJ's been. So I don't. Now the awards race thing, and then we'll pivot to this matchup afterwards. Where are you with LeBron and how emotionally you're invested, or maybe Lakers fans are invested with him getting into the MVP race? I don't think he has a chance to win. I don't think he should really have a chance to win. Maybe Lakers fans feel differently, but I think it would be something interesting that if in the year 04-05, his second year in the league or third year in the league, he finished 6th in MVP. If also in year 24-25, he finishes 6th in MVP, that's the LeBron resume. It's like one of the greatest peaks of all time. Like, how invested are you in where he potentially finishes in the races this year?
I honestly, like, I can't get myself to care about year-end awards, like just in general, whether it's LeBron in it, whether whoever, like, the year that Kobe averaged 35 points a game and finished like 5th, I was like, all right, I see it. All right, I get it, Yeah. And it was just like, we're good. So, but like that, all that said, it's been really cool to watch LeBron this year grow, I think, as a leader. And I know that like LeBron stans are not going to like the idea that like he had room to grow in any regard or whatever. But like one thing that I got kind of frustrated with when Russell Westbrook was on the team was he was very passive aggressive, right? Like if he had any kind of criticism of what Russ was doing on the court, he either wouldn't talk about it or it would be like, we got to do this and we got to do that. And every so often, like you do need to grab like your co-star and be like, no, you have to do this. You can't take that 17-footer with 18 seconds left on the shot clock and we're down by 5. Like we don't need that shot, Russ, And I think like over the course of like since then, and then really this year, he has been really active in his leadership, and he also holds himself accountable and stuff like that too, where just the other game, he was in a short roll and he almost had like too many options, and it was like almost information overload because he He could have made the pass to the corner. He could have thrown the lob. He could have shot it. And he just kind of got stuck in between all of them. And you could see him walking back down the court, like yelling at himself, like just shoot the ball. Like, what are you doing? You know? And I think teammates seeing that, watching him hold himself to account, there's real value in that, you know? And so that's been like the from that standpoint, and I'm with you. He doesn't actually belong in what is the real MVP conversation, which is just Shea and Jokic.
Yeah,
like
it's those two.
Yeah, like everybody always does this like mental trick where it's like, yeah, he belongs in the conversation. It's like, okay, sure. Like if we extend the conversation to the 8th best player in the league, sure, fine. Like, yeah, he's in the conversation. And he's not that far down the list, but he's, you know, he's not where it matters. Where it matters is Shea and Jokic. But what I will say about LeBron is also when they brought in Luka, this is the first time in his life that he is not the center of the universe for whatever institution he's playing for. And it's been absolutely incredible to watch him like take a step back, look at the situation and be like, he even said it. We are going to be at our best when Luka is our best player and has the ball in his hands. And he is improved defensively tenfold over this time. He is getting out and running. He hates running. He like he's built like he can run forever, but he hates running. He would much rather get the rebound, especially in like big key games, big key moments, slow the game down and have the defense in front of him and bend the defense to his will. But now he's like, no, screw it. I'll get out and run. I'm 40, but I got plenty of cardio left in these legs.
That's it. Yeah. I say it as someone who's 37. I hate running too. And LeBron is out here at 40 and feeling obviously much better shape, but I'm sure feeling the effects of the miles that the NBA has brought on him. Yeah.
So I would say like, I don't think he actually belongs in the MVP conversation, but I do think he deserves a ton of credit for what he has been to the Lakers this year, not just as a basketball player, but really importantly as a leader. This is the most invested I've seen him in a Lakers season in like a good few years.
Yeah, to your point, over the last 33 games, going back to mid-December, he's averaging 26, 8, and 8 on 53% from the field and 42% from three. That's almost half a season. If he was averaging that for the season, he'd absolutely be in the MVP, at the top of the MVP conversation. But yeah, this is. I also would probably get motivated if I were in his shoes if my team traded for Luka Doncic in the season.
Yep.
And you know, now the Lakers find themselves in listen, they're contenders for the finals. That's just the real thing.
You also said like at the top of the show how like you know, maybe we're looking at like this is, you know, LeBron's either last or second to last time he was playing in MSG and stuff like that. I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. Like I actually think he's probably looking at this like he probably sees ring number 5.
Right.
He probably really sees that like, you know, that's an attainable goal now.
Oh, Anthony, ring
he
number
might be
5,
ring
6. Number 6, ring number 6, like
he might.
That's I think the calculation that's been made now. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like around that conversation, it was more about the Lakers' ceiling, like what they could do. Even if he was having a great year, you know, like the conversation I had for the last pregame pod was more around, like, oh, this is impressive that he's 40, probably going to make an All-NBA team, deserved to be in the All-Star game, even though he didn't play in whatever the version of that All-Star game was. The fact that maybe he's a year or two away from no more LeBron was like, it wasn't an unfair conversation to have. And it's almost like we don't really have a good example of this. Maybe Brady going to the Bucks is the best one, but it's like if you have an aging quarterback and then suddenly trade for like the best wide receiver in the league. And it's like, oh, I could work with this. Like, I just got to sit back here, avoid pressure and find it's as if Randy Moss got traded to 40-year-old Brady. And now it's like, oh, I just got to hit go routes the rest of the season. Got it. And now LeBron as a second option gets the play off of Luka Doncic entering his prime. They're contenders for the finals. And I will say this, Knicks fans, tonight is a finals potential preview. As much as you hate this team, Knicks fans, this team that's 40-21 through 61 games. Look, the last time these two teams played, OG Anunoby got hurt in the third quarter, but the Lakers, really good at the rim, shot 80% from at the rim that night, shot 19 of 40 from three in that game. A team that doesn't really hit threes, of course, hit threes against the Knicks. It's been the story of the season. Any thoughts on the Knicks, whether it be this matchup or just on the season? Any questions you might have? I'd like to turn the pod over to my guest at a certain point. So what do you got?
So I broke down this game last night for the lowdown, and the thing that struck me in looking at this matchup is, like you mentioned earlier, the Knicks have the wing rotation to be able to at least strategically deal with the Lakers in ways that like almost every other team can't, right? The fact that they have OG, the fact that they have Macau, like that does kind of complicate what the Lakers have been able to do offensively. My thing is, you guys got Mitchell Robinson back, and what the Pelicans tried to do against the Lakers the other night was they started huge. They had Messi out there. They had Olynyk out there. They had Zion out there. They had their really good wing, whose name I'm forgetting. And then they also had CJ. So like
CJ
Murphy. Thank you. Yeah. They were huge out there. And I'm kind of curious, have the Knicks like messed around with like a hyper big lineup out there, the two big lineups, going with like, just as big as they can possibly be?
So before Mitchell Robinson, yes, there was a long stretch, honestly, since the Laker game, because OG Anunoby got hurt in that game, and Tibbs decided to start Precious Achiuwa at the 4. Now, teams figured this out last year that you could just kind of ignore Precious Achiuwa on offense, and this is a critique of the way the Knicks were using him, but they were using him in the corner rather than in the dunker, which you just ignore him, and then you add an extra rim protector that's guarding nobody. But over that stretch, their offensive rebound rate was like through the roof, So the way they were able to be effective against some bad teams was that,
play volleyball.
Right, you have as many possessions as possible on each possession. Chances as possible. I like that. Play volleyball. I like that. The times we saw Cat play the 4 next to a center. Shout out to Ariel Hukporty. He got some run as the Knicks backup center over a couple games, and unfortunately he tore his meniscus, I believe, so he's out for the season. But we did see some really effective lineups similar to Minnesota, where Hukporty would play center, and then Cat would play the 4, and then Cat doesn't have to guard centers anymore, and you have a better rim protector and drop than what Cat was, and those lineups are very effective. They were short-lived because Hukporty got hurt, but we did see that a little bit. Since Mitch has been back, he's been on a minutes limit, plus Cat just missed the most recent game. Shout out to Jordan Woods, who his partner that apparently lost someone to cancer. So unfortunately, Cat had to miss the last game to be with her, and then he'll make this West Coast trip. I think we're gonna see Mitchell Robinson next to Cat for significant stretches. It's gonna be a minute before. I don't think it'll be this game that we'll see this be the game that they broke. Oh, maybe this game they'll break it out. You only probably have like 18 minutes of Mitchell Robinson. So I wonder if they're just going to stick that to being the backup minutes instead. I did notice the profile you're talking about, though, that the Lakers, despite what they've been defensively and how great they've been, if you can offensive rebound and win the possession battle, like in that game back in February 1st, that the Knicks played the Lakers, the Knicks had 16 offensive rebounds and 14 extra shots that night, which, Josh Hart had a triple-double. Happy birthday, Josh Hart, by the way. So I wouldn't expect to see it tonight, but you're absolutely right that it is something the Knicks are going to consider against some of the better teams out there, with Mitch next to Cat, potentially going to those bigger lineups,
The other factor, I think, honestly, the top factor in this game is going to be which team keeps the other one out of transition. You mentioned like the Lakers improved transition stats since Luka got there. That's been a big part of their offense, obviously. It's funny, you look at the season long numbers, the Knicks and the Lakers have like identical transition numbers. They're like right there.
Knicks fans, Knicks fans who don't know, neither team likes to run, but when they do, they're very efficient at it. Like they're both very good transition teams. They just never like to be in transition.
Yeah, but like the Lakers lately have liked to run. They do look to get out and push it, especially on any kind of a stop that they're getting. So like how effective do you think the Knicks can be, whether it's by limiting turnovers? We talked about offensive rebounds, stuff like that. How effective do you think the Knicks can be at keeping the Lakers out of transition? Because if you can do that, that's a giant part of the Lakers offense. Now they have to make up for that in a half court situation where they've been learning on the fly.
This is going to sound so simplistic, but it's going to depend on their shot making. I'm not worried about the Knicks on turnovers. They've just been a low turnover team all season. Even the games where they have like 8 turnovers in the first half, or like a very high turnover first half, it's usually just an unserious first half where they're just playing poorly. This has been a Tom Thibodeau staple for the 5 years that he's been in charge. They just don't turn the ball over that much. So the live ball stuff I'm not as concerned about. When the Knicks are hitting shots, they're able to get back and set. And this has been the story of this season, when this high potent offense, and they're just the impressive shot making of Cat, of Brunson, of any of the wings is happening, then teams aren't able to get out in transition. There's an annoying habit, whether it be on a Jalen Brunson drive or specifically a Karl Anthony Towns drive, that all of these drives, they're falling out of bounds and leading to 5-on-4s. And I think that's now being coached into every Knicks opponent that, hey, Cat drives to the rim, regardless of whether he makes or misses it, you're going to have a chance to go 5-on-4 the other end because he's going to fall out of bounds. But yeah, you're right that it's hopefully a focus, especially with how good the Lakers were in transition the last game. Some teams have exploited that recently. And look, I worry about the Lakers just being a really good, efficient team at the rim in general. That last game, I said 80% at the rim. The Knicks have not been a good rim protection team at all this year. So it speaks to an advantage for the Lakers for sure.
How's Cat been when teams hunt him, in pick and roll, stuff like that? Because
in drop, it's really bad. It's really bad.
Luka's going to do that. LeBron's going to do that. They're going to be looking for Cat out there down the stretch of the game.
So they've started to switch a little bit more. The Celtics game was kind of a breaking point where they started to. It just became very obvious that you can't, even if you play not as much of a conservative drop, where Cat was just like backpedaling into oblivion. Now I will say him being in drop has led to like 13 rebounds a game, a very high defensive rebound rate, and the Knicks being one of the better rebound teams in the league. Sure. But against teams that are hitting shots, it's usually been a sign for danger throughout this season. I would like them to switch more. We've been as a network calling for them to switch more throughout the season. Even like Brunson in switches hasn't killed them as much. You give the wing or the elite wing, whether it be Bridges or Anunoby or even Deuce or Hart. I should hesitate to call Josh Hart an elite defensive wing with how he's played this year. You give him a second just to get back into the action, and then you switch back, and that's started to work a little bit. I gotta be honest, Anthony, the biggest frustration the last week or so, as they've started to switch more, is the communication has been off. And one of the reputations that this team has gotten, because like you brought up the minutes earlier with Tibbs and the guys playing a ton of minutes, is they don't practice. Like, well, we're gonna play you a ton of game minutes because you're gonna have your whole next couple days off
practice. Like garbage.
This is your practice. So they're learning how to communicate switches on the court, which the last game, how many like open Steph Curry threes? Like, oh, we didn't communicate who was
of all the guys,
of all the guys to not leave open. But as they're matching up, it's them learning how to play together, which look, for the year that they're learning how to play together, for them to still be 40-20, one of the 5 40-win teams in the sport so far. In perspective, it's not that bad, but it's led to some frustrating moments and obviously some frustrating
Expectations are a
losses.
mother bleeper.
Man, this season, yeah. Last year, they're going to win more games than last year, and last year is held, like, even by me, in such a high regard because of like how that team won the fan base's heart. And this year, 55 wins is not good enough. Okay, I don't care about your 55 wins. What have you done for me in the playoffs? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can't wait for this matchup. Like, I'm with you. I do think it's a potential championship matchup. I'm always a little nervous about like really, really small guards in playoff situations. So like Brunson does give me those concerns, like as you get later into the postseason. But like the one thing, and basically what you guys have done and what Cleveland has done is like, okay, yeah, we do have Brunson, who's a really small guard, or in Cleveland's case, we do have 2 tiny little guards out there in Mitchell and in Garland. We're going to be huge and we're going to be physical everywhere else. And I think that's kind of how you have to build your roster. All I'm asking is that like everybody in the East, just give Boston and like more of a hard time than they had last year getting to the Eastern Conference.
I think you're going to get your wish this year. That's for sure. I think this year in particular, you know,
because
Boston,
they have to play like, I would say 2, if not 3 legit, probably 2 really good teams to get through the conference this year. And you're one of them. Cleveland's one of them. I think Milwaukee will be kind of interesting. The Kuz pickup, I think, was way underrated because he was such a choke in Washington. But like Chris has never been healthy. So, but yeah, I tonight's going to be really fun, man. I can't wait for this game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Luka Lakers look like in person. Well, I should say my team, because I've been watching as much, like the Pelicans game was fun the other night. The Lakers have been a fun league pass team, which of course they have Luka Doncic. So
they're fine. They have Austin back in this one. Rui isn't going to play. It's been really interesting where Raj, my co-host after games, Raj put it really well, where it's like you look at it as LeBron and Luka are 1A in terms of options in the offense, and then Austin, when he's out there, is just like the release valve or whatever set that they run. And that's been really interesting. He's also been put in a lot of swing spots where you run your initial offense, you make the first pass out of that set. And then normally in modern offenses, it gets out to the wing, and that wing either can attack the closeout or swing to the corner for an open 3. And that's basically been where Austin has been situated. And I don't know what teams do with Austin getting to pick apart a rotating defense. So but like we said earlier, the Knicks have enough forces to be able to do it. You know, you have Hart in that situation guarding him. Most teams don't have a tertiary defender like Josh Hart, you know, that can just roam around out there. Not quite 100%, right? But he's still really good.
He's this stretch he's gone through lately has been tough. I'll say that. It started with his shooting. He's just not shooting the ball in general. He's shooting 21%, and he's like, their teams are just leaving him open, effectively turning him into a non-shooter. So like when you're playing him next to Precious Achiuwa, which I don't think we'll see Precious play tonight, but like him next to Mitchell Robinson, you're playing with 2 non-shooters. And if Josh is playing on the wing, then now I will say he started to take some, because they actually that the roommates pod, him and Jalen Brunson, Jalen, like, well, there was a moment where Josh left the room, and Jalen was talking to Matt, the guy, the non-basketball player that's on these pods. And he was saying like, yeah, when Josh is out there and he's not shooting, it's like we're 4-on-5. And I keep saying, shoot the ball. And then the roommates released that clip for the rest of us to see.
That's incredible.
So it's almost like bullying works. Josh is now taking threes, but he hasn't really hit any. So look, this guy come playoff time has just turned into Klay Thompson all of a sudden. So get these kinks out now, Josh. So that way come playoff time, I could watch you end playoff series with how good you are from 3. So we'll see. All right, couple questions from the chat, and then we got to let you go. The first one, this is from Ben Kim Gervey. Who is the Laker other than LeBron James or Luka that is most critical for team success? For us, that is probably Hart.
I mean, Reeves is the easy
Probably
answer
Austin
there.
Reeves, yeah.
He is just, he, for whatever reason, when Luka passes him the ball, is just automatic. And with the ways that Luka creates advantages, if you have a guy that consistently knocks down shots with those advantages that Luka creates, that's a real weapon. So Reeves is the guy. He's also tightened up his handle. So when teams just basically switch onto him with their bigs, he is absolutely ripping guys to shreds in those matchups.
Let's expand on the question. Who's fourth? This is where it gets difficult, right?
Yeah, I'd probably say Rui.
Not DFS.
Well, the thing is, DFS came to mind, but DFS is so steady that like it's kind of like, man, I sure hope this salt helps this meal. Like it's just that normally like that, like it's
Well
man, I
done.
really hope this Cholula hits this time. Like, all right,
Yeah,
cool. Like, that's easy, Rui though is a real wild card because if he's knocking down his shots and if he's active cutting and crashing the boards offensively, then he's really good. And his defense lately has been really good too. So I would say, like, that there's always the player who, if he is on, your team just doesn't lose. That's Rui. Like if Rui is playing well, the Lakers do not lose.
I believe he hit 4 threes in the game against the Knicks the last time they played. Obviously different rosters now. He might not play tonight. But yeah, that was annoying. Just as a Knicks fan watching, like that was annoying. Like, I was told this team doesn't hit threes. Oh, they're hitting 19 of 40 tonight. What do you know? So these last two, I should say, aren't questions. They're more comments that I'll let you react to. First, from Knicks Fan Patrol. There's a setting in NBA 2K My GM mode called Trade Logic. How did Rob Pelinka get Nico to turn that setting off?
The crazy part is that Nico approached Rob about it.
He thinks he won the trade. He thinks he won the trade. Yeah.
Right. Like the craziest part of it is that, like, because we all play fantasy sports. I'm a big fantasy football guy, right? And every so often you throw your Hail Mary right before the playoffs start and be like, yeah, I mean, it'd be great if I pick up freaking Tyreek Hill right before the playoffs. Why not? And in this case, it was like, a fellow playoff team, not a team that's tanking. Like, not a team this is a team that was just in the finals last year. A fellow playoff team approached you and gave you offered you the Hail Mary package and then walked away like, haha, look at me go.
Got him.
That's what's crazy. Like, that's the craziest part about all of this. They didn't have to turn off the setting. Nico asked him about the trade.
It's like Nico turned off the setting. And it's like, because then Rob probably went into this being like, I'm trying to use logic here, but it might ruin the trade at some point. Like,
well, like,
we'll never know.
The conference call. Like, just picture the conference call where, like, Nico is on the, or even like they met in that coffee shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just imagine Rob trying to keep a straight face where Nico's like, all right, man, I'm done with Luka. I can't handle this guy anymore. He drank a beer the other day. Can you believe it? And Rob was like, oh man, that sure sounds tough.
Can't believe
beer,
huh?
Right? Yeah,
beer, huh? We don't have beer in LA. We'll try to figure that out.
We sell gluten-free beer. Whatever. But this just picture where like Rob trying to keep a straight face, and he's and Nico goes to him and says like, you know what, man, we're so done with him. Tell you what, would you give us Anthony Davis? And Rob was like, I got to think about it.
Hold on. I got to make a call.
I got to call Genie. Don't move.
This mother effer's giving me Luka. Man. So this leads to the last comment from my 2 cents. Hey, guys, when I first heard the trade, I thought they finally found a way to make up the Chris Paul deal. Make up the Chris Paul deal to the Lakers.
Make up for it,
Right. Like, every conspiracy theory works for me because none of what actually happened still doesn't make sense. I was joking around with Fred Katz yesterday because I said after the Kyrie news happened, I said every conspiracy theory still makes sense to me. And he's like, no, Nico just like, this is a Nico Harrison. He's like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
that someone was able to be that in charge. Like the way he thinks doesn't make sense to me. So I have to go elsewhere. And so, like, what's been your favorite conspiracy
Ooh,
that's come out of this? Because all of them work
that's a
for
great
me now.
question. Yeah. Yeah. So I came up with one the other day. There was like Jerry Jones paid the Dumonts to be like, Patrick Dumont is like, hey, man,
Mm,
I'm about to not do anything in free agency again. Can y'all just trade here's like $50 million.
yeah.
You could spend it however you want. Just trade Luka and take all of the heat away from me because I'm about to not do anything again in free agency.
Yep.
That was a fun one that I thought of the other day. But the one that I like can't get out of my head is this notion of the Mavericks like doing the major. Did you ever watch the baseball movie Major League?
Yes.
Where
Oh,
they were
yeah.
like they were intentionally losing as much as they could, like make like saddlebagging that team as best they can, so that they could have such little fan interest that they could move to, I think it was Miami there. In this case, it's Vegas with the Mavericks. And that one, like, let's say that this is actually how it was going, right? Let's say they make that conscious decision. All right, we need to make our fans hate us as much as we possibly can. How different would the last month look from what they've actually done?
Yeah. I'm right there with you. And that's the like at the end of the month I have to
I
do
see the comment there. I'm sorry, I should have said Eddie.
the Eddie movie, the Knicks movie where the guy wanted to move the Knicks, hired a fan to be the coach, and they made the 8th seed, and he was like, I'm gonna move him to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do a pregame pod for the Mavs at the end of the month. And I don't know, it's gonna be the most empathetic pod I've ever done. Cause in reality, right. It's like there's no basketball to analyze. These are the types.
They don't have basketball players. They're all hurt.
Right. And so you add in, there's no future for me to look forward to with Luka. There's no present for me to look forward to with the alleged contender that you built. And Luka's now on a contender again in in the same conference, in the same sport. Like there's no pivot emotionally as a fan, which is why if you were to tell me they were trying to disinterest the fan base, this would be how you did it.
Right? Like, how different.
And I'm going to charge you more to watch this team.
Like, one of my favorite tweets to send back in the day, if there was a player that was playing really poorly, this is before I became more serious in doing this, was like, if so-and-so was throwing the game, how different would it look from how they're playing right now?
The Terry Rozier. Yeah.
Right. Scary Terry the other day was like, like if he was actively throwing this game, how different would it look from how he's playing in those clips? And like, again, here from the Mavericks perspective, if they were making the conscious decision to piss off every single fan that they possibly can, how could they possibly do this? All right, first we're going to trade Luka, and we're going to trade him for a player who's currently hurt and has the reputation for being always hurt. We're also not going to negotiate. Oh, by the way, we're going to send him to the Lakers. That's probably the team our fan base hates the most.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're going to play Kyrie Irving more minutes than anybody else in the league and drive him into the dirt. Justin, you can't scientifically prove that was that what like caused his knee to bend in 3 different ways, but like probably didn't help. Yeah. So like, and then on top of all of it, if all of that wasn't bad enough, here's an 8% charge on your season tickets.
It's the craziest part of the story to me. There's no like, hey, we know the season didn't go as you thought. We're going to keep like a decrease or even just keep as is. And we're going to focus on coming back next year stronger. It's like, no, we gave you the honor of watching a first half of Anthony Davis and 50 whatever games of Kyrie Irving. Here's an 8% kick in next season. Look, you mentioned fantasy football. I want to say it was my little brother who's like now in his mid-20s, but like the first year he was like allowed to be in the grown-up fantasy football league and was still learning like football, but like wanted to be with the big bro and the big the adults. And I want to say it was like Brady still in his prime, was on his team, and he just like he needed a backup quarterback or like some type of running, but he made a really bad fantasy trade.
Yeah.
And like the guy he traded for got hurt that first week. And then the person that he traded with had Brady. And like from your perspective, like you're looking at the guy you traded with, and you're like, I feel bad that happened to you, but I really am enjoying watching Luka on my basketball team right now. And that's been what I've gathered has been the perspective this season. Look, I as a Jets fan that's like taking a break from the Jets, that like the Jets never did this to me. Like the Jets never like torpedoed hit a self-destruct button. Like they've had Sixers seasons or Suns seasons like we're seeing this year. This is unprecedented what we're seeing in Dallas.
Like at least when the Jets traded for or brought in Aaron Rodgers, right? Like it was seen as the right move to make.
Right.
He was the top free agent on the market. He was still a good quarterback, all that stuff. He just happened to tear his Achilles on that first play, you know? And it's like sometimes that happens with a really old quarterback, but it's not like nobody ever like laughed at the Jets for bringing in Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
This one, not a single person. Like I just wrote for Clutch Points what the last month has been throughout the league. And I have some really fun quotes in there that people were willing to go with on the record with, right? From anonymously, but on the record, they were like, yeah, you could use this quote, whatever. I have some even better ones that they weren't willing to throw on the record there, where people were like, you mother bleepers, like, what are you doing? And it's like the other part of it too is that the league doesn't want to see the Lakers with Luka, I mean, no, I don't mean like the NBA. Like, I don't mean like the NBA league office.
I'm saying the competitive league.
Like they don't want like the Lakers were about to be like LeBron. They were going to run out the clock. Genie basically admitted this the other day. We're like, they were probably going to run out the clock, and LeBron was going to retire, and we'll see what Anthony Davis looks like carrying a team. And there just wasn't much of a future there. Then they were like hoping maybe they would draft their next superstar, or they were going to clear their books and maybe try to sign a superstar in free agency. But there was no like clear path there. The Lakers were about to be irrelevant in the ways they were before LeBron showed up. And that's something that the other 29 teams want to see. They want to see the Lakers like, all right, cool. We don't have to worry about the Lakers for a little while. We're good. Now, all of these teams now have to like look at the Lakers. They now have a chance of winning a championship, not just this year, especially next year. And then on top of it, LeBron's going to retire. You're going to have stars lining up to play with Luka in LA, and like those other 29 teams are looking at the Lakers, or they're looking at the Mavericks like, what?
Why
did you do that?
LeBron James, J.R. Smith meme of him looking at him after he thought they were ahead. That's the rest of the league looking at the Mavericks like, you didn't know we were ahead in this game, or this game was tied?
We were shooting this way.
Yeah,
we're going that way.
Coach, we didn't have any timeouts left. What happened here?
The Lakers were going that way, and now they're going that way.
Look, it's why this season that so much of the talk was, and what's funny, it's actually been like a really good season. There's 50 and 11 teams, or 51 and 10 teams at the moment. There's some really good teams out west, not Lakers, like what the Nuggets have been, the Memphis has been, Houston's been a great story. Like this Pistons thing, the Knicks are right now looks like we're headed for Knicks Pistons in the first round.
It's gonna be so much fun.
And like there's to the basketball nut, there's a lot of intriguing stories. And then you get the casual basketball fan that's just asking all of us, like, so Luka's a Laker now? Like what is this about? And we all get to see how it turns out this spring. It starts tonight at, I'll call it crypto.com arena.
I call it moneylaunderingarena.com.
You know what? Not Staples is what I'll call it, because it's forever going to be Staples.
The arena formerly known as Staples.
Yes, the arena formerly known as Staples. Anthony, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Before you get out of here, whether it be Clutch Points or the Lakers Lounge, please let the fine folks at home know where they can find you and all of your work.
YouTube.com/@Lakers Lounge is where you can find the show. It's we have our fun here. A lot of the same tone that I brought to this show. That's basically how I cover the Lakers. So we have our fun there. And then, Clutch Points. I'm the senior Lakers insider for Clutch Points just because I'm old. And that's where you can find all my work.
There you go. I wish you the best of luck not in this game. So from like Friday on, I wish you the very best of luck. All right.
Absolutely.
Yes. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you to everybody for tuning in to another edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. If you dug it, please head over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. I'll be with John on the post game tonight. I'm producing these West Coast games. So tune in bright and early, like just as it becomes Friday morning. I'm also doing the post game for the Clipper game tomorrow night. So get a lot of me on this channel over the next couple days. But I'm also going to have a pregame pod tomorrow at 2 p.m. to preview the next matchups against against the Clippers. So tune in for that. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.